Have you ever done something and immediately wondered, why did I do that? Maybe you sabotaged a relationship that was going perfectly well. Maybe you procrastinated on a project that could have changed your career, watching the deadline pass with a paralyzed sense of dread. Or maybe you exploded in rage at a loved one over a dirty dish, a reaction so disproportionate that it left you trembling in the aftermath. You tell yourself it was just a bad day. You tell yourself it was stress. You promise yourself, I will never do that again. But you do. You do it again. And again. We like to believe we are the captains of our own souls. We believe the conscious mind, that small voice in your head narrating your day, is in control. But this is the greatest lie we tell ourselves. The truth is far more terrifying, and far more ancient. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Think about that word. Fate. It implies a destiny written in the stars, something unavoidable. But Jung wasn't talking about astrology. He was talking about a program running in the background of your mind. A script written when you were a child, directed by your trauma, and acted out by a stranger living inside your skin. To understand why you are stuck, why you feel empty, or why you keep repeating the same toxic cycles, we must look at the topography of the human psyche. Imagine your mind as an iceberg. The part visible above the water is your ego. This is who you think you are. It is your conscious identity. I am a banker, I am a kind person, I am logical. But beneath the surface lies the massive, submerged mountain of ice. This is the unconscious. It is vast, dark, and silent. And it contains everything the ego rejected. This rejection process is called repression. From the moment you were born, you learned that certain parts of you were unacceptable. Maybe you were told that boys don't cry, so you repressed your sadness. Maybe you were told that good girls don't get angry, so you repressed your rage. Maybe you were mocked for being creative, so you repressed your imagination. Where did those feelings go? They didn't vanish. Energy cannot be destroyed. They were shoved down into the dark basement of the unconscious. Over decades, this basement has become crowded. These repressed parts have fused together to form what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not just evil. It is simply the hidden. It is the sum of all those denied emotions, forbidden desires, and unhealed wounds. It is the primitive, raw, and unfiltered version of you. And here is the danger: the shadow does not like being ignored. The more you push it down, the stronger it pushes back. When you are tired, when you are stressed, or when you are triggered, the shadow takes the wheel. It hijacks your behavior. That sudden outburst? That was your shadow. That inexplicable anxiety? That was your shadow knocking on the door. That self-destruction? That was your shadow screaming to be seen. You think you are making choices. But in reality, you are sleepwalking. You are a puppet, and your shadow holds the strings. And unless we cut those strings, or learn to work with the puppeteer, your life will never truly be yours. If the shadow is hidden in the unconscious, invisible to the ego, how do we ever find it? How do you see something that your mind has been trained to ignore for decades? The answer is simple, yet unsettling: you look at the people around you. The external world is often just a reflection of your internal world. In psychology, we call this projection. This is the shadow's favorite defense mechanism. When the pressure in the unconscious becomes too great, the ego takes those repressed traits, the anger, the greed, the jealousy, and it projects them onto someone else, like a film projector casting an image onto a blank screen. Think of that one person in your life who irritates you beyond reason. Not someone who actually harmed you, but someone whose very existence makes your skin crawl. Maybe they are too loud, too arrogant, or too selfish. You fixate on them. You judge them. You gossip about them. Here is the hard pill to swallow: you are likely not reacting to them. You are reacting to a piece of yourself that you see in them. If you possess a deep, repressed desire for attention that you've labeled as shameful, you will inherently hate anyone who shamelessly seeks attention. If you have repressed your own capacity for aggression, you will be triggered by anyone who displays assertiveness. you hate in them what you cannot accept in yourself. Jung warned us, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But the shadow is not just a trash can for your negative traits. This is a common misconception. The shadow also contains your gold. We call this the golden shadow. Just as we repress our anger, we often repress our greatness. Did you grow up in a home where standing out was dangerous? Where being smart was called as showing off? Where having big dreams was mocked? If so, you likely repressed your ambition, your leadership, and your creativity. Now, when you see someone else succeeding, leading, or creating, you don't feel inspired, you feel envy. Envy is nothing more than the shadow telling you what you are capable of, but are too afraid to claim. By keeping these parts of yourself locked in the dark, you become fragmented. You are operating at 50% capacity. You feel a persistent, low-level anxiety because you are using a massive amount of psychic energy just to keep the door to the basement shut. This constant suppression drains your vitality. It is why you feel tired even after sleeping. It is why you feel unfulfilled even when you achieve your goals. You are fighting a war against yourself, and the worst part is, you think the enemy is out there. You think if you just change your job, change your partner, or move to a new city, the problems will vanish. But they won't. Because you take your shadow with you wherever you go. The fader you are running from is actually just your own reflection chasing you down. So, how do we stop running? How do we turn around and face the monster? And more importantly, what happens when we finally look it in the eye? So, we arrive at the final question, what do we do with this information? If the shadow is controlling us, do we kill it? Do we cut it out? No. You cannot kill a part of yourself. If you try to destroy the shadow, it will only retreat deeper into the dark and wage a guerrilla war on your mind. The goal of depth psychology is not perfection. It is wholeness. Jung called this process individuation. It is the act of bringing the fragmented parts of your psyche back together. It is the handshake between the ego and the shadow. This is what we call shadow work. Shadow work is not a bubble bath. It is not writing affirmations in a journal about how worthy you are. It is messy. It is humiliating. It requires you to admit things about yourself that shatter your ego's carefully constructed image. It begins with observation. The next time you feel that sudden surge of irrational anger, or that pang of intense jealousy, or that wave of inexplicable shame, stop. Do not act on it. Do not suppress it. Instead, ask the question, what is this feeling protecting me from? If you are triggered by someone's arrogance, ask yourself, where in my life do I feel small? Where do I wish I could be arrogant, just for a moment, to assert my worth? If you sabotage your own success, ask the shadow, why are you afraid of winning? Who will I leave behind if I succeed? When you start to talk to the shadow, the dynamic changes. You stop being the puppet. You become the negotiator. When you integrate your aggression, you don't become a violent person, you become a person with boundaries. You become capable of saying no. When you integrate your selfishness, you don't become a narcissist, you become someone who knows how to prioritize their own self-care so they can actually help others effectively. A harmless man is not a good man. A harmless man is just weak. A good man is a very dangerous man who has his monster under voluntary control. This is the paradox of the shadow, the very thing that is ruining your life is also the source of your power. The energy you spend holding the door shut is the energy you need to build your life. When you unlock that door, you don't just release the monsters, you release your passion, your drive, and your creativity. You stop being a nicer person, and you start being a real person. The unconscious will always run your life, until you turn around and face it. The darkness is not there to destroy you. It is there to complete you. The choice is yours. You can continue to sleepwalk, guided by a ghost you refuse to see. Or you can wake up, embrace the monster, and finally, take the wheel.